The story begins with a wounded man named Jack, sitting alone in a parking lot, surrounded by gang members ready to execute him for failing a mission. He was supposed to eliminate a man called Payback, but instead killed the man's family and let him escape. Suddenly, a tall, muscular figure wearing a black shirt marked with a giant cross appears. It's Payback himself. Without hesitation, he opens fire on the gang to save Jack, cutting down several of them instantly. But one gang member, who possesses superhuman powers, remains untouched by the bullets. Forced into hand-to-hand combat, Payback displays brutal efficiency, snapping the man's arm and leg before crushing his skull bare-handed. Jack, thinking Payback rescued him out of mercy, soon learns the truth. Payback didn't come to help. He came for revenge. Jack was the one who murdered Payback's daughter, and now Payback wants to deliver justice himself. To him, killing the wicked isn't just acceptable, it's righteous. Without hesitation, Payback reloads his gun and fires directly into Jack's head. Before he can flee, however, police sirens wail and officers rush in to arrest him. In this world, many people possess extraordinary abilities. Some control electricity, others have immense strength or can unleash deadly energy blasts. To contain them, the government constructed the most advanced prison ever built, a fortress designed specifically to hold the most dangerous superpowered criminals alive. Payback, convicted of killing nearly 50 people, is sentenced to life behind its steel walls. The prison is run by a corrupt man named Walton Devlin, who insists on being called the Overseer rather than the Warden. Rumors swirl that he kills inmates who attempt escape, but during a televised interview, Devlin calmly denies the allegations. He makes one thing clear: this prison wasn't built for rehabilitation. It was built for punishment. A group of new inmates arrives, among them Payback, already infamous among criminals. Captain Brody, the chief security officer, briefs them on the rules. Every inmate has a device called the Power Nullifying Equipment, PNE, locked to their leg. The device suppresses their abilities completely. Inside these walls, no one is special. Among the arrivals, one man stands out, not for strength, but for his gentleness. His name is Diego Diaz, and his unique power allows him to sense the emotions of others. Surrounded by killers and sociopaths, survival won't come easy for him. When Officer Morales scans his ability, she laughs and warns him to keep his head down. When Payback's turn comes, Morales realizes he's one of the most dangerous inmates the prison has ever seen. Another guard mocks Payback, saying he looks less intimidating in person than he does on TV. But when Payback glares at him with cold, silent menace, the guard immediately backs off, much to Payback's amusement. Suddenly, Morales punches Payback hard in the stomach, dropping him to his knees. She makes it clear she won't tolerate arrogance or defiance. After receiving their supplies, the inmates are led to their cells. Later, Payback steps into the prison yard and encounters an inmate named Jim, the brother of a man Payback had killed. Jim's been waiting for this moment. The two clash violently. From his office, Devlin watches the fight through security cameras, laughing as he munches popcorn. The guards, including Morales, don't intervene. Meanwhile, Diego watches with growing discomfort. He turns to another inmate, Gordon, and asks if the guards are really just going to let them kill each other. Gordon shrugs, explaining that guards only step in when someone's about to die. The fight escalates until Jim breaks Payback's nose. Bleeding, Payback smears his own blood into a cross on his face, the same symbol that marks his shirt, a sign of twisted faith. With renewed fury, he regains the upper hand and nearly beats Jim to death before the guards finally stun them both with electric batons. Morales orders Payback to stand down. He refuses. She beats him until he collapses. Later, Gordon befriends Diego, giving him a tour of the prison and explaining its unspoken rules. 1. Never make a mess in shared spaces. 2. Never get involved in another inmate's problems. 3. Never owe anyone. Not the guards, not the prisoners. Gordon seems like one of the few decent men there, hoping for parole through good behavior. He warns Diego to stay clean and keep quiet. Curious, Diego asks whether the legendary inmate known as the Lobe is truly locked up here. The Lobe, according to rumors, has terrifying mind control powers, once forcing a mother to murder her family, including her baby. Gordon lowers his voice and points toward a heavily secured cell. "That's him," he whispers. "Don't even look his way." He warns that if not for the PNE device, the Lobe could control everyone inside these walls. Just then, a monstrous figure passes by, a hulking inmate built like a tank. His name is Darius, the Lobe's right-hand man. Even Gordon, usually composed, becomes silent when Darius is near. Meanwhile, the Lobe himself sits in a dark interrogation room for yet another parole hearing. His head is encased in a metal cage to prevent even the slightest facial movement that could influence minds. The room is pitch black, the parole board hidden in the shadows. It's his fourth attempt at release, but once again he's denied. The board declares him mentally unstable, too angry to ever rejoin society. Furious, the Lobe mocks them from behind his mask, realizing freedom will never come. Later, Devlin visits him. As he prepares for retirement, Devlin complains that his job never made him rich. Then, in a low voice, he offers the Lobe a deal. "Transfer every cent of your hidden fortune into my account, and I'll make sure you escape." It's rumored that the Lobe stole billions through his psychic manipulations. Devlin wants it all, but the Lobe refuses. Devlin taunts him, calling him a powerless old man. "Without your gift, you're nothing," he sneers. The Lobe stays silent, his eyes cold. Devlin leaves, confident the man will eventually give in. Elsewhere, inside the prison clinic, Dr. Isabel tends to Payback and two other injured inmates. One prisoner's head, completely severed, slowly regenerates, his powers healing him even with the PNE in place. Officer Morales arrives for a routine check. Soon after, Diego enters for his cleaning duty. Morales, irritated, threatens Diego for no reason. Dr. Isabel clearly disapproves but stays quiet until Morales leaves. She then apologizes to Diego, telling him not everyone here has lost their humanity. She begins introducing him to her patients, trying to make the place feel less cruel. Moments later, Morales returns, announcing that the Lobe is ready for his psychological evaluation. Isabel leaves to meet him, unaware that Payback has silently risen behind her. He grabs her by the throat and lifts her off the ground, choking her until she passes out. Then he turns to the Lobe, intent on killing him while she's unconscious. But the Lobe stays calm, even smiling faintly. Just as Payback is about to strike, Diego bursts in from behind, tackling him long enough for guards to intervene and restrain him. Diego has broken one of the prison's main rules: never get involved in someone else's fight. That single act, however, earns him unexpected respect. Word spreads quickly. The quiet new guy stood up to Payback. Other inmates, impressed, offer him food and protection. Gordon tells Diego that this new reputation could keep him alive, or get him killed, depending on how he uses it. A few hours later, Darius approaches Diego in the cafeteria. "My boss wants to see you," he says. Diego follows him to the Lobe's cell. Inside, the Lobe thanks Diego for saving his life and offers him a position. Take Darius's shift in the kitchen and bring him whatever he asks for. In exchange, he promises Diego freedom once his plan is complete. Diego hesitates. Freedom sounds good, but trusting a man like the Lobe could mean death. Meanwhile, in the warden's office, Devlin's assistant Felicia warns him that making deals with the Lobe is dangerous. He can't be trusted, she insists, but Devlin only smirks, replying that to control monsters, one must become worse than them. If she ever wants to run this prison, he says, she'll need to be just as ruthless. To drive his point home, he shows her two letters, one recommending her for promotion after his retirement, and another listing enough misconduct to destroy her career. "Which one I send," he says, "depends entirely on you." The next day, Dr. Isabel releases Payback from the clinic. This time, he's cuffed to the bed under constant watch. In another part of the facility, Gordon faces his long-awaited parole hearing. He does everything to prove he's changed. No fights, no rule-breaking, years of good behavior. But when the interviewer reminds him that he has no visitors, no letters, no family, and no one waiting outside, Gordon snaps. He curses the panel, shouting that his life still matters. That outburst seals his fate, parole denied. Behind the scenes, it's revealed that Devlin himself reviews all parole cases, ensuring that no one ever leaves his prison. Crushed by rejection, Gordon returns to the cafeteria in silence. When Diego approaches to comfort him, Gordon forces a smile, hiding his despair. Moments later, Darius drops a broken fork on the table. Gordon discreetly uses it to unlock his PNE device. The plan has already begun. Manipulated by the lobe, Gordon is about to start a riot. He thanks Diego for being his only friend, then suddenly leaps onto a table, screaming at the guards. One notices the missing PNE and calls for backup, but it's too late. Gordon grabs an exposed power cable hanging from the ceiling and surges with electricity, his veins glowing bright blue. After years without power, he finally feels alive again. He releases a lightning bolt, killing a guard instantly. The cafeteria erupts in chaos. Alarms blare, inmates scatter, and Gordon overloads the prison's electrical grid. Lights flicker, systems crash, the power dies. That's the signal. Across the prison, Jim and his gang launch a full-scale riot. But as Payback and Jim square off once again, the guards electrocute them before either can win. Meanwhile, the Lobe sits quietly in his cell, smiling. His plan is unfolding perfectly. Gordon uses the confusion to run toward the infirmary, hoping to hide. In the control room, Felicia and Devlin watch the surveillance feed. She shows him the footage of Gordon regaining his powers. Furious, Devlin orders an immediate manhunt. Down in the clinic, Gordon stares out a window, exhausted but free, until Officer Morales sneaks up behind him and strikes him across the head. She reports the capture to Devlin. His cold reply, "Finish him." At first, she hesitates. Gordon doesn't resist. He knows it's over. Tears in her eyes, Morales punches him again and again until his skull caves in. The murder is later covered up. On the news, Devlin claims that Gordon tried to escape and fell to his death. One reporter accepts the story. Another questions why so many inmates keep dying under mysterious circumstances. Back inside, Diego's on a monitored call with his wife when Morales cuts the line. "The warden wants to see you," she says. He's escorted to the solitary wing, to a room next to the Lobe's cell. There, Devlin shows him the extreme isolation chamber, a metallic coffin that generates electrical storms strong enough to kill in seconds. He warns Diego that disobedience has consequences, then interrogates him about the Lobe's plans. Diego tells the truth. The Lobe only asked him to take a kitchen shift and mentioned something about carpal tunnel. Devlin dismisses him but orders him to report anything else immediately. Later, Devlin confronts the Lobe again, demanding progress on their deal. The Lobe denies involvement in the riot, claiming innocence. Devlin, losing patience, threatens to throw him into the storm cell unless he transfers the money before retirement. The Lobe finally agrees, but only if he's given the prison's Wi-Fi password. Devlin laughs and walks away, thinking it's a harmless request. In the basement, Felicia, Brody, and a technician inspect the electrical tunnels, or carpal tunnels, as the inmates call them. Since Diego mentioned it, Devlin wants every passage checked. The group debates Gordon's death. Felicia calls it murder, while Brody insists it was necessary for order. They agree on one thing. The prison is a powder keg waiting to explode. Weeks pass. The wiring and generators are rebuilt, and Felicia reports back to Devlin. He praises her work and assures her she's still in line for promotion. But as his retirement approaches, everyone grows tense. Rumors spread that something big will happen on his final day. That morning, Felicia opens an email. Brody has been recommended as the next warden. Enraged, she storms into Devlin's office, accusing him of betrayal. Calmly, he says the decision wasn't his. It's the board's call. He adds that she'll still have a fair shot. But Felicia sees through his lies. Finally, the day arrives. In the crowded control room, Devlin formally hands power to Brody. Felicia forces a smile as the announcement plays over the loudspeakers. Devlin then calls her a valuable asset and recommends her as Brody's assistant, an insult disguised as a compliment. After the ceremony, Devlin goes straight to the Loeb's cell, eager to collect his payment. He hands him a tablet. Transfer every cent, then you'll live comfortably. But instead of wiring the money, the Loeb hacks the system. Using the Wi-Fi password, he disables every P&E device in the prison. In a cruel twist, Devlin had used the same password for all the facility's security systems, giving the Loeb full access. An ear-splitting alarm blares. Every prisoner suddenly feels power rushing back through their bodies. Fireballs ignite, acid hisses, lightning crackles. The entire facility descends into chaos. Guards flee as inmates unleash years of rage. Only Morales stands her ground, using her own strength to fight back against the superpowered swarm. In the clinic, Diego reels as thousands of emotions flood into his mind. Terror, pain, fury. Dr. Isabel steadies him, helping him regain control. Meanwhile, the Loeb's plan continues. Devlin finds himself trapped inside the very cell he came to gloat in. The door locks automatically behind him, another part of the Loeb's setup. Felicia radios in, panicked, as guards fall one by one. Elsewhere, Payback and Jim meet once more amid the carnage. The two clash with monstrous fury, shaking the prison. Jim's raw strength gives him the upper hand, slamming Payback against concrete walls. Just as he's about to crush his skull, another inmate intervenes, distracting him long enough for Payback to escape deeper into the compound. Brody calls Felicia for help. She tells him the only way to restore control is to reboot the main breaker in the basement. But there's one problem. Jim has followed him. Brody races down the dark tunnels, losing radio contact. Hearing footsteps, he hides. Jim's massive frame fills the corridor. Brody attacks, but his blows are useless. Jim slams him into the wall, the same wall that holds the main circuit switch. Desperate, Brody breaks free and smashes a pipe, releasing gas into Jim's face. Blinded, Jim staggers backward into the generator, electrocuting himself and restoring power. Above, systems reboot. The lights flicker on. In the Loeb's cell, Devlin doesn't seem afraid. Even as alarms sound, he smiles. The money has been transferred. "Looks like I win," he says, but the Loeb smiles back. "Do you?" Before Devlin can react, his body goes rigid. His vision blurs, his mind burns. The Loeb, using his psychic ability, transfers his own consciousness into Devlin's body, the ultimate escape. Moments later, guards storm the cell. They reactivate the P&E system, stripping everyone of their powers. The riot ends abruptly. Hundreds lie dead. Devlin, or rather the Loeb inside his body, emerges, ordering that the old Loeb be thrown into extreme solitary confinement. Felicia, unaware of the truth, meets him outside. He smiles and tells her she's the new warden. For the first time in years, she feels proud. Elsewhere, Payback sits atop a mountain of corpses, laughing. The riot gave him what he wanted: chaos and death. Days later, Diego visits Dr. Isabel one last time. He tells her he's being transferred to another facility where his empathic powers might actually help people. The government, now reorganizing its superpowered inmates, is moving him somewhere safer. Isabel wishes him luck. At the same time, Felicia settles into her new office. She removes Devlin's nameplate from the door and tosses his old chess piece, the Black King, into the trash. The prison is hers now. Brody resigns, passing command to Morales, who proved herself during the riot. In the final scene, a car pulls up outside the prison. Devlin, or the Loeb wearing his skin, arrives to pick up Darius, newly released. As they drive off, one chilling truth becomes clear. The Loeb didn't just escape the prison. He became the man who ran it. His fortune is safe, his enemies are gone, and his power now extends beyond the walls he once ruled. And somewhere deep in solitary confinement, the old Loeb's body rots in darkness, empty, silent, but still wearing that faint, knowing smile.